Are you rolling?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Sweet. What up, people? we gotta intro with some music.
Boom, 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 boom. I don't know why I went to straight stand-up bass.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I feel weird. Does this sound weird?
What do you mean?
I don't know. We're using a new recorder.
Yeah.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. Another podcast, TRIFLIX Cast. This is the show thing that we do where we talk about recent projects we're working on in the film industry, in the creative media space. I'm Tristan. This is Cole.
Hello.
Nice.
Hello, camera.
What a good intro.
Sorry. Yes, hello. This is Cole. Welcome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Welcome.
So he's the producer. I'm the director. And then over there in the corner, we got David.
It's me, David.
And he's the efficiency manager and the technical guy. He does it all. He just makes it happen.
Awesome thing is now he's got a mic and a camera, and so he's on it.
Yeah. So quick little rundown. Today we got a couple things we want to talk about. Some recent projects coming up that we're currently either shooting or getting ready to shoot, and they're going to come out. But also,
or they might already be out.
I don't know. Yeah, they might already be out now. What else are we talking about?
Well, I thought real fast, if you haven't listened to episode 1 for season 2, the last episode, definitely check that out. We talk about some cool projects, and we kind of gave you guys an update on the company. So listen to that. That's as much as I'm going to say about it.
I feel like we could go a little bit on that
if you'd like to, sir.
So we merged. We own TRIFLIX LLC, and it's a creative media studio based out of Columbus, Indiana. I've said this so many times that I have it down.
That's what I'm saying, man.
And yeah, we are focusing this year. Last year was focused on building the foundation of like our pipeline, our workflow, and making sure everything is smooth from start to finish of a shoot. And now we are organizing, right? And now we're actually trying to expand and build out our clientele more. We already had something stable, and now we can grow. We're at that phase. So that was pretty much the first podcast.
Yes, we did a lot of non-paying stuff. Now we're actually trying to get paid.
Right. You have to have that portfolio to show that you're capable and competent. And we did a lot last year and early this year.
Yeah, because we only had part of last year. So, I mean, this is like going to be our first full year. Yeah. So I'm excited, dude.
And as of now, everything's been coming out consistently. So as far as the 3 channels we got running and social media, so that's it's a good thing. I feel like the organization we took last year definitely helped prepare us for whatever it is that we're doing now.
It's worth it. We're excited about it. So
yeah, I mean, just this week we shot 4 videos.
Gosh, is it 4? It feels like 100.
It's been over 4, but it's definitely been a busy week, and that's a good problem. But the thing is, it's every shoot we're trying to figure out what we can learn from it, or what we can improvise, or and not like because we forgot something, but improvise as in change what we're doing in our workflow, or change what we're doing in our approach to provide something better for our clients, not just for them, but also to push ourselves and in our skill set, me as a director, but then, I mean, Cole's been doing some directing here and there lately, especially with shots.
Yeah.
Just framing.
Sometimes you can't hold back when you see some. Yeah. Which, hey, you know what? Sometimes it takes 2 minds, and that's, again, we've talked about this, but it's beautiful to be able to go, hey, like, what's your thought on this? And we can bounce it off because we're used to mostly doing things by ourselves. So now that we can go, hey, like, what do you think about this? Mm-hmm. And it's just, gosh, it makes the process so much better. And I think in turn, it has made our projects and our, final products much better. So yeah, all good things.
Yeah. I realized, I mean, we have a guy working for us now who's in film school, and it is really interesting to have him come on set and explain the technical side of things. Gosh, because it's not really my background.
Neither one of us.
Neither of us. Mine's more on the engineering side, so I understand the concepts, and as he explains them, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But almost everything that I've learned up to this point in the last 10 year plus of production is just trial and error, and then watching a lot of YouTube, reading a lot of forums, and figuring out what the best way other people have experienced it, and then how I can apply it. In the recent case, I mean, you can take our set right now, the lighting. There's a lot of different lighting styles, like 3-point, which is what I traditionally used up until this probably past year, where you just 2 lights in front and 1 over the corner over their shoulder as an edge light, and then that just gives you a nice like corporate-y commercial shoot. And now we're starting to experiment with different color values. So a warmer color like the sun. The sun's nice and warm, and then you got daylight, which is like kind of like a cooler color. And now we're experimenting with that on our set. So we got these like warm, given depth between us and our backgrounds. And then you can also like invert it, try different things. So on some of our more recent shoots, we've been using warm lights for the face and cool lights as the edge light. And we're taking these examples from tutorials we've learned, and then also movies. So if you like watch a movie and you're like, oh, that's cool, why does that look so good? We're able to break it down now and figure out, or kind of like reverse engineer shots to be like, how can we recreate that for a client shoot, right?
Yeah. And we're using that now on a day-to-day basis, which is cool. Learning a lot about that stuff for sure. And most of the time it's one of those things where it's like, oh, that's the name for that.
Yeah. And that's why I brought Spencer into this, like the guy working with us in school, because a lot of times I'll say something and it's close enough that he's like, oh, you mean this? I'm like, yeah, cool.
That.
Yeah, he knows what he's talking about. He's a pretty smart kid.
Thank you, textbooks.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for helping us sound smarter. But I mean, if you go on set, most of the time your client won't know the technical word. They're not going to call you out. They're asking you there to produce something. As long as you're able to create their vision and bring it into reality, meeting and or exceeding their expectations, then at the end of the day, that's what really matters.
It's all that matters.
Yeah. So I think probably one of the other examples we had that we did shoot for CCC, a church in Columbus, and they wanted a video explaining how their organization has basically different locations within the community, but they're all connected. And we wanted to try a shot out that would explain that very clearly, very quickly. So let's say 10 seconds. How do you explain that two spots are located apart, but are connected? So we used this drone footage and did like a dolly out from one location as a guy's walking out of the building. And then we were using some effects where we blended in with Google Maps and then moving the map across, similar to like if you're just driving down the road, and it follows along the road to the other location and then zooms in at this other property. So that was just another trial of, we go on set and we're like, you know, they're only paying us to do X, but what if we just added a little bit more? What if we tried something a little extra that we watched a tutorial on like a year ago? I think we could do it. And then
the minute you use that too, I saw like all the people across like our channels, and you know, we follow like all the major photographer, videographer people on YouTube, and it's like all of a sudden I start seeing all these shots where they're like zooming out in clouds and this and that, and I'm like, we just did that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's really wild too, because I think at this point in not just directing, but like the editing style that I've developed over the years, there's a lot of shots where I'm like, oh, I could do that. And previously I would say that and I would get nowhere close. But here lately, within the last like 6 months, a lot of the shots, like Coach's Cuts we did was the commercial. We talked about that in the last episode. There was just the style and shots that I wanted to try out that I'd never done before. And we walked in, I didn't really, practice this style, but I'm so familiar with the software and the editing that's like, I think I could do that. We go shoot, and I shoot as close to as what I think I need for like in pre-production and everything to get it in the right circumstances. Because you don't want to go in blind, but go and try to set up the circumstances and the environment as close as you can. And then you come back and edit. And we got really close. We had a commercial that I think was on par with what he showed us he wanted.
Oh, for sure.
With a bit of a style that like we brought to the table.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was gorgeous.
I love that. That's a great video. And that's the funny thing too, is like I had no idea until now that you hadn't done those shots before.
Yeah, that was a first.
Yeah, I had no clue.
But I mean, at the same time, there was a lot of camera work that you did on the car shoot that you had never done before.
It's true.
One of the biggest one we get questions about right now is that radial shot. How did we do this 360 around the car? And it was a mix of editing, but also in camera work that you did that made it look good. Everybody's like, it looks so smooth, but really, I mean, you can explain what you did there.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I'm trying to think about what they call that walk, but you do kind of like that stiff, like you're like very soft footing, crouch a little bit just to give yourself that extra stability. But it was shot with a gimbal with a Ronin SC, and we've got grips that go on the side of it, but we're walking around, or I was just using kind of that crab walking going around. It's just that moment where you're like that military sniper, and you just know you got to be steady and just like breathe in, and then you just hold your breath, and you're just like crab walking, and you're going. And I mean, I think that was a stitching of multiple shots, I believe, but again, it's low slung, just kind of like going around the car and just trying to be as consistent as possible.
I feel like for people listening or just watching, crab walk may be a little confusing. It's like crab walk would be like all on all fours, but really you were doing like a heel toe, right?
Yeah.
With his knees bent and his core locked, engaged. And his,
that's what I was trying to think about a name to call it, but
I always call it the duck walk. But
that's closer for sure. My bad.
No, it's all good.
There's some of it's sideways.
But you tried out a different type of walk than you've ever done before for shoots.
Yes.
Mainly because you're not usually the camera operator, and in this case you were, since I wasn't on set. And it came out really smooth. And then we threw it in the edit, and it turned into this smooth, almost jib-like. And okay, so a gimbal is what we shot this on.
Roll it back.
A gimbal is what we shot this on, and it is a handheld fixture that holds your camera, and it's electronic, and it has motors, and it just stabilizes the shot in your hands. It weighs like 4 pounds. A jib is this large crane, not as large as like moving houses, but it's essentially a scaled down version of that. It's probably about 10 feet in height, and sometimes they'll be mounted on vehicles, but it's a big arm or a crane arm, and it's used to hold cameras and go around subjects or objects. And you see them a lot in like behind the scenes for large production movies like Avengers or any of the Marvel stuff. I'm sure Star Wars uses them quite a bit too. Anything large, you'll be using them. And it's a very expensive piece of gear. So when people see shots like this, they're like, how did you do that for, I know you guys don't have that kind of a budget. How are you blowing 10K on jibs or these really sick dolly shots? Where did the track go? And it's like, it was a good edit with really good smooth footage. And I mean, it took you a couple takes to get that down.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because I was also, it goes back to the gimbal. The gimbal motors, they're all electric. So sometimes, the gimbal motors, if you don't have your your camera leveled and kind of not as so much leveled, but balanced. That's the word I'm looking for. Those motors can get strained because they're only rated for so much, weight. Mm-hmm. And so my biggest problem that day was just making sure that everything was leveled out the best that it could. Cause I was doing a lot of low slung, like taking the gimbal and putting the camera closer to the ground and kind of like pushing it out from in front of me. Mm-hmm. And I kept having this thing where you could see the motors were hitting their limit and the camera would begin to shake.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, I'd go to do it, and then you just twist it the wrong way because I had it zoomed all the way into the lenses, like all the way out there.
Yeah.
And I would just go around, and it would go and start just flickering. Mm-hmm. And so it was just like, get that, go again, and just figure out what the tolerance is of course, your gear, right? Mm-hmm. And just kind of getting through it. But I was like, I got to get this 360 shot. This is going to look tight.
Yeah. And the nice thing it was on asphalt. So being a smooth surface, it makes it a little bit easier. But in the future, for something like that, I'd really like to get something electric wheeled vehicle, like a longboard or a one wheel that we could ride around and get even smoother dolly shots. And we could go faster because we're not limited by how fast we can walk with a locked core with like heel toe. It's like, what is the max speed we can safely ride on a vehicle? It's like 6, 10, 15 miles per hour, depending on, your capabilities. Some of these will go up to like 20 miles per hour. It's like, oh wow, we're really pushing it. Let's tone it down a little bit. But that's something I'd like to try in the future, to get one of those and maybe do chase scenes with cars where you could follow a vehicle and then like hop off the electronic vehicle or whatever and go into a car into the back seat and then you like hop out and do these like big expensive one takes. I remember seeing behind the scenes for a movie where this guy's on rollerblades doing that same type of effect.
Oh yeah, I forgot. The rollerblades get used a lot in like our professional realm.
Yeah, industry.
yeah, industry. So I'm like, we're not like full set like Hollywood type stuff. So like we see jank stuff like that all the time.
Right.
But hey, you can still get same quality shots. It might not be as easy and you might take a couple more takes, but hey, that's the beauty of it. Mm-hmm. And then once you get that piece that's like that piece of gear or whatever it might be that you've been like wanting, like one day when we get to actually use like a full on like jib with the crane and all the jazz, like That'll be cool.
Yeah.
It will be like, oh, now we know how to do all this stuff.
Talking about jank setups, we'll cut into your.
Oh my gosh!
You promised you'd talk about it this
I
episode.
I did.
But before we jump on that one, we did our update videos for the. Was it this week? Yeah, it was this week. The update videos for the YouTube channel. So it's probably it's up by now, and it's just a trailer that we're going to put on all three, explaining what we're doing now as a company. Why we have 3 channels and what they're intended for. So Triflix Films is our short films and commercial work, anything that's like really pretty that we think is interesting for people to watch. So not like interviews, obviously, but more of the cool commercial work we do.
The interesting stuff.
The interesting stuff. And then we also have Triflix Team, and that's basically anything we do that we find related to the team would go there. So the team that produces our videos. So that would be, we use gear. So it's like, well, let's review the gear we're doing, using that we like, and even some of the stuff we don't like. Let's do some behind the scenes that explain our filmmaking process. I think there's a couple other types of videos, some tutorials explaining basically behind the scenes of behind the scenes. Like it's like, how do we do these effects or whatever? And, while we're shooting this, we just had an improv idea of like, how do we explain visually that we do short films, and then what's a fun way of showing it, because we do a lot of jank setups just because it's guerrilla shooting. You're always trying to do a fast pace, and we're like, what if we just, instead of green screen, what if we just put the TV up behind us and then put a shot in there that's like moving some stock footage. And if you check it, it actually says stock on the shot, but it's behind me and it's out of focus. And honestly, if we didn't zoom out as a gag for it, as a gag joke or whatever, most people probably wouldn't have noticed that was some stock footage, right?
No way. With the effect of, the depth of field and the bokeh, like you can't tell.
Yeah.
It looks like he's sitting on a film set and people are moving, and you can't. That stock label is so transparent that it just goes away with that
White background, right?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah,
I'm sure you didn't hear about that, David.
No,
what is it that you're what?
So yeah, you go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. So we recently filmed the trailer for the YouTube pages, right? So now when you come on, you'll be able to see exactly what that page does and what that's for and what we're going to post there. So, but part of the films, right? Yeah. Part of the films one, we were like, oh yeah, we'll just, because some of the stuff we do is kind of jank, why don't we make part of it actually like that? And so we literally sat Tristan in front of his TV and then just zoomed in and just blew out the background. And it looks like it's stock footage of just people walking around on a set.
And I sat in front of the camera, so I'm in focus. And it's like, hey, welcome to Triflix Films, the channel where we make short films. Like, see what we're doing on set here today. And then the gag is Spencer's running the camera and he zooms out. And I'm like, well, cut it. Like,
cut it.
Right.
Why? Like, you're ruining the shot. It looked real, and then you cut it. So
the shot looked great, though. I was super impressed with the framing and everything.
Well, it's funny because that's what Disney's, what is it? The volume? Is that what they call it?
Yes.
Their room is just a giant, like, circular
TV monitor.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's pretty good. Like most of the shots that it's in, you can't tell.
No.
I'm not going to spoil anything. I've been watching WandaVision.
Okay.
And that's Disney's newest Marvel TV show.
Yeah.
And there's a couple shots where I could tell, like, that's a TV. Like, that's just straight up. That's not a background at all. I can tell that it's not real.
Yeah.
But like,
I haven't noticed it yet. Now you're going to make me have to go back.
Yeah,
and
you're going to have to keep an eye out for a lot of the weird background scenery.
So that was actually where I got the idea from. And it worked there because we weren't moving in front of the shot.
Right.
And the reason I learned this from that series that they did, Mandalorian. Jon Favreau's in the background and he's explaining why like this technology. If you ever have a phone and you take a picture of another screen, you get this more effect, this aliasing, and it causes like these bending of lines all over your screen. The reason they're able to record an actor on these screens while other things are moving is they use really small LEDs essentially for their TV monitors, and they're so small you don't get that moire effect or the aliasing. So if you have like a really high resolution monitor, that's essentially what it is. So like a 5K monitor, you'll get a significantly reduced lines all over the screen than if you know, like a 720p, 1080p, small monitor, small TV.
It's Apple certified Retina displays.
Oh, don't get me started
all
on that.
all about that Retina.
But yeah, that technology is coming to consumers. It's crazy. It's micro LED, and like Samsung came out with it, but you know, it costs you like a cool $50,000 for one of those.
Right, and it's not a whole room of them, so you can't walk around. And
well, no, correct. And I can only imagine what the volume cost to actually, you know.
But my point being, like the consumer market, our equivalent is I have a 1080p and it works because I'm sitting still and I'm not moving in front of the TV and the camera's locked off. And we matched our lighting as close as we could to the scene in the background. And that's really what sells it.
Yes.
As soon as you start moving, you run out of TV space. So if you have commercial, or if you have not commercial, consumer tools, and you stay within the limitations, it can still emulate what, you know, the professionals are doing
all day long.
You just have to find the good balance. But that was our Jank setup.
And maybe one day we can use the volume.
Maybe one day.
That would be tight. Just saying.
So
Sony's going to license it and sell it. So we'll buy it one day.
So it was Sony that made that for him?
So I think once all of that information came out from their behind the scenes with Mandalorian, I'm pretty sure Sony came out and said yes, that they were the ones behind it and that they were actually going to sell it to other studios and things like that. I mean, now don't get me wrong, like John and those guys came up with the concept.
Oh, it's like an act of terrorism or something. Like they take credit for it after it comes out. Wait, everybody's like, who was it? Sony's like, we did this.
It was us.
And in fact, we're going to sell it to everyone else.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Disney.
It's just some guy with a briefcase who goes around the corner like, hey guys. So
it was us.
But yeah, that was our emulation of a professional shoot. And to anybody walking in, they probably would have thought it was jank. But in the edit, I guess it'd be up for you guys to decide whether or not it was truly jank.
Yes. But I will wait till after that video comes out, but I do have behind the scenes shots of that. I don't have video, but I have photos. So, and believe me, those were worth it.
Good. But yeah, tell them about the other jank setup we had with the tripod.
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite stories. I don't have a lot of these good ones, but so part of what Triflix does and part of what I brought to the team was a back catalog of clients that I shoot real estate for. 99% of it is photography. So it's just shooting listings. So, you know, in a week I can have a lot of those shoots. And sometimes like I switch with my wife's car and my car and blah, blah, blah. My car is a rolling office. It has everything I need. It has a tripod. It has, you know, hats and gloves for when you're cold and masks and everything. So that day, my wife decided to come with me on a shoot that was in Brown County because afterwards we were going to go mountain biking. And so I was like, great. So we took her car because we're not fitting mountain bikes in my car. And so we go to the shoot. I have my camera equipment, all that. And it's in Brown County. So it's like a 40-minute drive because of on the outskirts. And so we pull up. I go and I do the outside shooting. And when we do the outside, we just use our cameras. So nothing, no extra gear. And I go back to the car to grab the tripod to go inside, and it's not in the car. And I'm like, I can't, the owner's here. I can't reschedule this. Like, these are really good clients of mine. I was like, what am I going to do? And so I was like, I could go handheld. I'll figure it out. And most of what we shoot with real estate, especially something like this, it had hateful lighting. So it wasn't like I could compensate for that. Lighting was so bad. So normally I have a very low shutter to compensate for the light, and we do bracketing, which is where you take, you know, a certain set of images. They all shoot at different shutter speeds, which let in different amounts of light. So, and I take those and I merge those. But anyways, so it needs a very steady shot. So I put it on a tripod. So without having one, I'm like, what am I going to do? So the funny thing is this guy that's there and he owns it. He's asleep in a chair outside. I show up and shoot. He's just asleep sitting in the sun. I'm like, okay. And I had ended up having to edit him out of a lot of my shots because he was sitting in front of the building. Right. But so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go shoot inside now. And I go in and he stayed outside. Thank goodness. Because I get up there and I'm like, what am I going to do? Because I figured maybe I'll have things to set on. And I go up there. There's no furniture. There's nothing. Yeah. So I'm scrambling and looking around. I'm like, I have to shoot this place. And it's a tiny little apartment. It literally would have it took me like 15 minutes to shoot. But I'm walking around and I'm like looking, like, what kind of surface can I use? And I go in this room and the only thing that's sitting in there is an ironing board. So I go, you know what? Buckle up. It's the jankiest, rustiest ironing board I've ever seen, but I like stretch it out, put it on the ground, and I literally use that ironing board for every shot in that house.
Yeah. And the house sold.
I just moved it from room to room, and the pictures were phenomenal. Everybody was super happy with it. And I was like, you have no idea.
Yep. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what limitations you think you have. It's just trying to find a creative solution for your problems.
Yep.
And that's every single shoot we do.
Now it's on my resume. I can shoot with an ironing board.
Yeah. The only photographer.
Well, there's a YouTube channel, the director of what's Shazam? I forget his name. I totally forget his name. But he runs his own YouTube channel. It's called Pony Smasher, I think. That's what it's called. It's something really weird. I don't know why.
Smasher?
Yeah, his YouTube channel is called Pony Smasher.
It's creative.
I don't think he likes bronies. But he has a whole series about like how to make do with what you have. It's like sometimes I need a dolly shot and I just have a skateboard, and like this is how I did it. Or like I need bloom lighting, and I don't have I only have like my tiny flashlight or my cell phone, and it's like really jank setups. Like it doesn't matter, it just works.
Yeah.
And that's
exactly
the point.
right.
Daniel Schiffer's the king of it too.
He is.
I don't want to like support him because, you know, it's another YouTuber, but at the same time, I respect him so much because he will find the most creative ways of getting these commercial grade shots. And a lot of big companies aren't going to these multi-$1,000 commercial shoots anymore. They're hiring YouTubers to do these same things for a couple thousand.
Yep.
And you're getting the same result, but instead of having a film crew, you're just outsourcing it to a kid in his kitchen with a bounce whiteboard or a blackboard, and then, you know, a couple of Ziploc bags for shooting vegetables and fruit in your shot for a commercial.
It's impressive, just saying.
And
I watched one the other day that he did where he did like a can of Truly or something. I don't know what it was. And I was just, it looked fantastic.
Yeah. His color grade and his lighting always blows me away too. Because there was one where it's like an orange can with a black background and like orange fruit popping up.
Yes.
That one looked gorgeous.
Yes, that's the one I just watched. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was Truly, but I wasn't sure. And talking about, you know, watching Mandalorian and trying to learn from other people, that was another thing we took away. We did a shoot for Audio Game, trying to do tutorials.
Yes.
And
Trying.
I used the Jason Bourne, you know, the orange and teal lights, the warm and cool lights, to try to get this moody look for the Audio Game, which we just have a little recorder that we use to record our audio. And we want to put out a tutorial explaining how to get good audio. 30-second long video, right? About a minute, whatever. And as we're shooting it, it's like, how do we get a smooth rotating shot? Do we move the camera? That's what we would normally do. And I was like, the audio recorder is maybe, you know, half a pound. Why don't we just, it's on a white table. Why don't we just put a white piece of paper underneath of it and rotate the paper? And even though the paper's in the shot, it's white and it's just blurred out enough that it blends in with the table. The background's blurred. So you're just so focused on the foreground of this audio recorder. It ended up working perfectly fine.
It was great.
And I saw the footage because I think you edited that one, and it looked smooth, seamless, and nobody's going to notice. And plus, it's only on that shot for maybe a second, maybe 2 seconds. So
yeah, that's the thing.
Too
like,
fast.
with the short shot like that. And I honestly, when I was color grading, like I just bumped up the whites to a point where it did start to actually kind of blend.
Yeah.
And I was like, sweet, look at that. And I mean, it took the crop because there was actually words on the paper. So
Oh, was it?
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
just towards the front. So I was like, and crop.
Yeah.
Because you would know how to like go in and probably mask and do all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah, but it's also return on investment. If
It's true, though.
Why waste an hour doing something that isn't going to make 5% difference in the viewer experience, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
If it's so minuscule, you know, sometimes it's better to send out 100 projects at 80% than one project at 100%, right?
Yeah, exactly. And not that we don't care about our quality, but sometimes you got to ask yourself, right? 60-second tutorial. Probably go ahead and pump that out because everybody's going to watch it here. It's actually also a vertical video anyway, so it's only going to be seen online, probably through a phone.
Disgusting.
I know, right? hey, you have no idea how
Are you on
hard.
TikTok now? Is that what's
I
happening?
wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have no idea how unhappy he was with me. I said, "Oh, hey, we're shooting vertical," and he literally started shooting vertical and then flipped back to landscape. And I was like, "Hey, you need to." And I was like, "Are we flipping it?" And he's like, "No." And he succumbed to it, and it turned out nice. I'm telling you,
It turned out nice, but there's a part of me that grew up on YouTube, and I never want phones to be the primary source of media consumption.
I get it, but the problem is, and this is a good conversation to have, you guys, because like I've heard this, and I know this to be true, that most people, the best screen in their house is their phone.
I believe it, but
I mean, think
at
about
the same time,
I know
4K resolution on a screen this size makes no difference versus 1440p. On a screen that's this size, this is a 5-inch screen.
maybe not that, but I will say recently I downloaded a modded version of YouTube, and on a phone they usually cap you at 1440p. So when I downloaded this, it allowed me to get up to the what is it, 2140? It's it's full 4K.
2160 because it's 80.
Yeah. So it allowed me to now use that on all my devices, which all my devices, I mean, technically that's what the screens are. So it actually uses its native resolution. And I'm telling you, it made a world of difference.
Which phone?
This one.
Yeah, your phone's twice the
Which phone?
size of my phone.
What's that phone you got there? How much is it?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, your phone's a laptop.
It does have an 8-inch screen on the inside, but still, like, I could tell a difference on this and my 12-inch tablet.
Well, that brings up another thing, though. YouTube 4K is not native 4K.
Well, this is
Right.
true. This is true.
Yeah.
But still, I'm just saying, like, I did see a difference in resolution and clarity. And the thing is like, too, I mean, we all know how expensive it is to buy a 70-inch OLED, right? I mean, we all have one in our pocket. So, I mean, most people can't afford to put that in front of them. Like, I can't afford to buy an OLED TV, but I have one in my pocket.
I don't know.
With 2 OLEDs on it.
It just makes no sense to me that you would rather, I mean, unless you're in the bathroom, which I know most people watch YouTube in the bathroom, whether you like it or not, that's a fact.
That's where I get all my watching done, just saying.
It's just what you, especially if you have kids, because that's where you hide. But it blows my mind that people would, if given the option, not limited by income, but just given the option, would you prefer to watch it on their phone versus a TV? And I know there's a large portion of people that still would choose the phone.
Yeah.
A lot of times we'll be watching dinner and we have the choice of watching on the TV, and my wife's like, I just put my phone up and lean it up against a candle. I'm like, why? Why? I mean, she has a beautiful phone. Don't get me wrong. Samsung makes a great display, but it's like we have a Sony TV. Her phone's 4K. My TV's 1080p, but at the same time, you're watching anime. That's all pixelated anyways.
I don't know.
And plus streaming in general is just another complaint.
Well, now again, we can tackle that one too. Thank you, compression.
That's the only way to get 4K up is to use H.265. A lot of streaming services use H.265, which, if you're not familiar, most people use H.264. It's very old. Think of it like USBs. They got newer. They look the same, but they get newer and newer, and they get faster and faster. And for compression, H.264 is just a really big file of information, or H.264 is. And H.265 is the same thing, just a little more compressed. You lose a little bit of data. I think it's like 10%, but you're getting like a 90% of more efficient storage space. So they're able to send a ton of data more efficiently, and it looks a little bit worse, but in exchange, they're giving you 4K. So even though the colors may look a little different or whatever, primarily just the colors, you get so many more pixels now, and people are like, oh, it looks so much more crisp. That's just a complaint of mine. I just give me the option to download the whole thing, and I'll watch it whenever it's finished downloading.
I understand. It does. It makes a very noticeable difference in the quality for sure. And again, like that's a pain point for me too. I completely am on your page, because we get to see things not just, in their raw filmed format, but we also get to see the file before it ever goes through an algorithm.
Yeah.
Before it goes through the grinder of YouTube.
Exactly.
You saw that with Coach's Cuts.
Oh, it
looks good on YouTube, but it looked so much better before we uploaded it. All the
It
blacks
shifted
got
those
crushed.
colors. Oh yeah.
Now, for people that don't know what that means, crushing the blacks is a video term, and it just means that you have color value that's white and really bright, and you have dark values that are really dark. And if you make the brights too bright, it just blows out all the color and makes it unusable. It's just voided color. It's just white.
Watch our coach's BTS, and when we're outside, I didn't change the ISO.
Yeah,
so.
it gets really bright. And then crushing the blacks is the opposite. And we didn't really, when we were shooting it, we didn't have the problem. But YouTube compresses. And
No, sorry. It was just me shooting behind the scenes. Tristan did everything correctly.
I don't know about that. But so crushing the blacks is when you do the opposite. So instead of making your shot too bright in post, you take all the colors and just make them darker. And it's a style that some people choose to use, and it makes things look dark and gritty. You see it a lot in the Batman series with Christopher Nolan's Batman, Dark Knight Begins, the Dark Knight series, whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of times all the blacks are really crushed and everything's just slightly lit, and they do a little bit in post, but I think they just underexposed a lot of their shots. It'd be my guess, because a lot of it is shot at night too.
Yeah.
And it's a style. It's something that some people choose to do.
So it's always nighttime in Gotham.
But on YouTube, it compresses it and just forces it too low.
Yes.
And that way they don't have to send as much data, because if it's crushed, there's no data. It's just black.
Right.
And it saves them a ton of data. It saves them a ton of money for sending, because it's not free to send information. It saves them a ton of money, and that's why they do it.
And it helps with bandwidth and spectrum with wireless carriers and
if
this and
bandwidth
that.
was free, they wouldn't care.
Exactly.
Or Comcast. We're just trying to save Comcast some money.
Hey, they're a small startup. They're working it out.
They're doing their best, everybody.
I will be honest, since I run Comcast, and they're not the most affordable, but they do have the oligopoly in this area. It's honestly a monopoly. There's really no competitors. But since I switched from business to residential, the first month was hell, and after that, it's been smooth. I haven't had any more issues. I think you said their signal may drop in the middle of our server uploads, maybe once a month.
Yeah, I think they do something in the middle of the night. It's like nobody's going to be up at 3 a.m. trying to restart everything.
Yeah.
And like they don't do that for businesses, because like usually they need 24/7, like whatever. They probably rotate stuff on and off before they even try it. But yeah.
So for the first month, we had a couple issues just switching over from business to residential. But after that, honestly, they haven't been terrible. Their customer service is a lot better than it was even 5 years ago. My family had them and hated it. And I hated it then, but they've gotten better. So
Yeah, I always thought that the actual service itself, like the technology, was good. Like I always had good, throughput with the networks, and always had good luck with it. It was just always
Stability.
Yeah, stability was good. Thank you. But yes, the customer service was always a hellacious thing. You're like, why did you add $100 to my bill? And they're like, because we wanted to.
yeah,
Because we can.
I think
I don't want to fucking look it up.
maybe there's some overlap between the people, because I was talking to Comcast about data consumption, and they're trying to sell me plans. They're like, you only need X amount of data throughput, bandwidth, whatever, download, upload speeds. And maybe there's some overlap between the people that listen to Comcast and take their advice in those situations and the ones that watch everything on their phone. Because they're like, oh, you play games, you need at least 50 download. And I'm like, yeah, of course I need 50 download. I don't know who in their right mind would use less than 50 download.
Thank you.
Right? So we got Gigabit, and I'm working with clients, and I use Google Drive for a lot of file transferring, COVID and all. And plus, I don't generally want to leave my house anyways if I can work from home. Why would I take you a USB when I could just give you a link and you download it?
Right.
Turns out a ton of people have terrible internet connection. They're like, oh, sorry, it says it's going to take 4 hours to download a 3 gigabyte file. I'm like, are you kidding? It takes me like 5 seconds.
Hey, don't get mad at me about this, okay? But I was watching a LInus Tech Tips video the other day, and if you guys are interested in any of that internet sort of stuff, they give out a lot of data, a lot of facts, which is really interesting. So again, I'm not trying to plug them, but
We'll do it every episode now.
They're a small up and coming channel.
they're
Start a trend.
They need all the help. But they got the Starlink internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were testing that out, but they actually gave some stats about like how many people actually have like good broadband above like 25 megabytes down, and the majority, like the top like majority of people have that.
The top majority of people have
Less than 25 megabytes.
Yeah, I believe it.
Which is crazy to me. Like in this day and age, like we're talking about 5G, which is over a gigabit, and we still have people who have, you know, a bandwidth less than 25 megabytes down. You're like, what are you doing with that?
Right. Well, the reason I think it's so strange is maybe it's just cheaper in the Midwest, and maybe I'm out of touch and my value of money's off. But I think right now a gigabit in Columbus, Indiana, the Midwest, in the middle of we're in the middle of large cities, but we're at least an hour from any real city.
Right.
So it's not like we're huge, and we have affordable internet, in my opinion, at a gigabit being only like $60-$70 a month, right? And to me that seems normal.
No.
And I know other people are like, that seems really expensive for internet, but I'm like, well, how much did your parents pay for cable TV?
Dude, that's an amazing price. I pay $60 a month just for 100 megabyte. Just saying. That's a great.
So introduce Starlink. So I can understand why people don't have internet that's a gigabit, like really fast internet speed, whatever, if they live outside of town. But a lot of my clients live in town. So it's like, for $70, what are you doing? It's like, well, you know, it's too expensive. It's like, well, your parents have been paying for cable TV for the last 20 years, and it's like $120 a month.
I think my parents were paying like $200 a month for like Dish Network back in the day, and you're like,
there's 2,000 channels,
right? You're like, and nothing to watch.
Yeah, and then, so I mean, that's all to say that I still couldn't comprehend why people in a suburban area don't have faster internet speeds. And if it's because of money, I'm like, what else are you spending it on? If your budget's that tight, then I completely agree you shouldn't have it. Just wait until it gets cheaper and cheaper. However, Starlink makes so much more sense because it is basically Dish TV, Dish Internet for, I think they're doing it $99, $100 a month for 50 down at the moment. Once it gets saturated, it'll go down, but at that point,
because it's a small like beta. I think they said they've only released like 10,000 units or something like that.
Those where it hurts.
$500.
It's like $500 just to get like everything, so you can get.
Yeah, but Comcast charges people, I think $200 to get set up, and then I don't know what Dish is, but I know it's expensive.
Really? Is that much?
Yeah.
Do you know? Did it come with a wireless router? I think it came with everything, didn't it?
It came with its like
a whole thing, right?
I don't think you had to use it, but it was.
It is nice though.
It was included. Yeah.
So
you could spend $300 to $600 on a router all day long.
So why does Starlink work so much better? It's just because the satellites that they're using are closer to the ground than the satellites that are in the, I don't remember what sphere of the Earth it is.
Geostation. It just means when the Earth is rotating that it's staying in the exact same spot, and that's, you have to be really far away from the Earth.
It's like 22,000 miles or something like that. It's crazy high up, and these satellites are closer to the ground. They hover over Earth and cover areas at a time.
Yeah.
So because they're closer, you have faster internet speeds. I believe it's going to require a lot more satellites, though.
It sounded like it.
Because
what's the upspeed? Do you know?
It was like 20 when I saw the LInus tech tips. It was about 25 up.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad because I mean the curse of satellite internet has always been not so much the download, but the two things, right? Like upload, and then of course like line of sight. If you don't have line of sight, then you couldn't do it. So
yeah, what happens on a rainy day? Like, how does your internet just die, or what?
Well, I mean, then you have satellite towers too, and it's like, well, in 10 years from now, what's going to be the best price for performance? Is it going to be a phone plan at 5G? I mean, you have to be like 100 feet from the tower for that to work with no line of sight, right? It's like 4G. Will it have more development?
Just going to install a 5G tower in my house.
You get the brain waves.
Yeah, right.
Microwaved.
Yeah. Will Elon develop Starlink so he has enough satellites to cover the saturated rural communities? Because this is like really good for people that live, you know, your nearest neighbor's a mile away.
Yeah.
but it doesn't economically make sense for somebody that lives in a city. If you can afford Starlink and you live in Chicago or Detroit or Cincinnati, Indianapolis, LA, whatever, it's not for you. Get fiber optic for $100 a month.
Yeah.
Get 10 gig.
Might as well. Wow, we totally just went down the internet rabbit hole.
I think it's all relative to our industry.
Oh no, I agree. I mean,
that's what we're here to talk about.
It's all part of it. I mean, it's streaming is what got us there. Which
You're getting clients to download stuff.
Well,
we just uploaded 1.5 terabytes in a day and a half, basically. It was about 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, I don't know. You're like, oh yeah, I just put like a couple projects up on the server. It's like, oh, it's not gonna be much. And you're like, how much was 800 gigabytes? Like,
Yeah.
oh
Wait,
my
what?
God.
Yeah, so we have a 32 terabyte tower. We shoot projects, and an average project, 100 gigabytes. And for people that don't understand how big 100 gigabytes is, if you shoot a phone video for 10 minutes, it's probably going to be about 2 gigabytes on your phone.
1080 is what you're saying?
I mean,
think at 4K maybe.
if you just tap your phone twice, hit camera, go to video, and hit record without changing any settings out of the box, 10-minute video for you would probably be about close to 2 gigabytes, depending on the phone you have.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then
for sure.
for us, we do 50 times that, and that's one shoot, which took us maybe 30 minutes of recording with a couple cameras.
So it is usually more than one camera, just to be fair.
So we back all that information up. We have edited projects or whatever, and then we put it on our server here. And we have 32 terabytes. I think that's 1,000 gigabytes times 32.
Tristan, what's a terabyte?
It's 1,000 gigabytes.
Okay.
So think of how many
That's a lot of
10-minute
gigabytes.
videos on your cell phone that would be. It's like 500, and that's 1 terabyte, and then 32 times that is our capacity here. And
I did have to laugh. Somebody said something the other day, like, I wish I had a terabyte on my phone. And I was like, for what?
What would you be putting on your phone?
Your life savings.
I'm like, put it on the cloud. I think 512 is too much for a phone. I'm like, what do you need 512 for?
I don't know.
I feel like you're really bad at organizing if you have 512 on your phone. Like you need to delete some stuff.
Or like if you're recording
offload.
that much photos or taking that much.
When would you
Whatever.
watch back 512 gigabytes
you
of
must
cell
be
phone footage?
really bad at editing your videos down and like just deciding that it's not worth having on my phone or just
Right.
Yeah.
I think I could get away with like $128. I think that'd be my lowest I could go.
128.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 128 I'd be fine. I
think
mean,
I'm at
this has got
64.
256. I don't think I could make 64 work.
It's hard. I'm always
running
at 5%.
64.
I'm at 5% capacity always. It says you have 5% left, 5% left. I'm like, why? I deleted everything.
I'm paying like the $3 a month to upload my photos to Google Photo.
But we have pixels. It should be free.
I was gonna say,
Oh no, they killed that. Like everything.
no, they weren't
Google-
supposed to kill it till June.
Well, I don't have it.
Either way, I'm not
Like,
a fan.
sir, we need to look at your phone because I am still uploading for free and I have a Samsung.
I'm not a fan of cloud backups.
Oh, I
that's
love
my
it.
opinion.
Why don't you like
I
cloud
love
backups?
it.
I don't like someone else hosting all of my stuff. I'm not a fan.
trust them?
I don't. It's like building a house on rented land. I don't know why that is your only source of the backup. I prefer to back everything up on my computer, and then I have a local backup.
You could
a
do
little
both.
NAS. You could do both, but why pay $3 a month?
Well, I'm not paying.
Well,
I don't know
I
how
can-
you are, but
I'm complaining about.
I have my own server, but that would be like 2 years of having the Google Photos app for just I don't know.
I like knowing where it is, and I like the organization of it being on my own device.
I get that. I know that you're just handing your stuff over to somebody else. It's so convenient.
There's a Jake and Amir sketch on like how I don't want Google to have my photos because they're gonna sell the art in my head. You know, they're gonna take my photos and use it for advertising purposes without my permission, even though I agreed to it when I signed up.
Well, they have over 70,000 of mine, so. But you can go in at any point and download your data through your Google account. So maybe one day I'll download it all and put it on somewhere else. But, it's a lot.
I know it's reliable.
It's the organizational features. That's the thing that I like is like, I know that I put it in their cloud. AI is going to go through everything and they're going to give me all my face detection. It even knows, like I could type in cat and it shows me every picture that has a cat in it.
Yeah.
I put my dog in like I put in my dog's name, like this is Andy Baker.
Yeah.
And it recognizes like this is a collection of Andy. Like that is weird, but I really like
I dig it. It makes it so much easier for somebody like me, especially like I'm like, okay, today I'm going to post on Triflix Instagram. I'm going to pick a picture. I'm just like, I type in camera and I'm like, oh, here's every picture that has a camera in it.
Yeah.
And then you move on down the road.
See, I would prefer, I'm not saying I don't like that service, but I would prefer just like, hey, here's $200, one-time payment. Give me the software that does that. I understand that. AI is different because if you pay subscription as their robot, as their intelligent design gets better by doing more and more sorts of Andy the dog,
right?
Or child 1, child 2 through your phone.
Hey, no, it's true though. It's insane because it's like, think about it. We at this point in life, right? We don't change that much at all, really. A facial hair, maybe glasses, maybe you get a haircut or something, but we don't change that much. Like, but it can literally, from the time that my kids were infants, like newly born infants, all the way up till now when they're 5 and 7, it recognizes them all the way through the process.
Right. Well, there's probably iterations to go by.
Oh, for sure. That's what I mean. It
like,
gets to see every point of their whole 7-year, 5 years of existence.
If you go back,
and I train it, I let it train.
If you go back to like when you first got Google Photos, right? And you put the first photo of your kid and the last photo of your kid, it wouldn't know what to do. I don't think it would. But because you put in your birth, 2 weeks, 10 weeks, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it was able to like, oh, that's this person along the way.
Right.
And that's the value of AI and doing subscription-based service. And I understand that.
And the thing with that too is like, well, why can't like I just download the software? Well, this is the new KFC like original secret recipe thing.
Yeah.
All that training and everything, that is Google's trade secret. They cannot let anybody else have that. Because that's what makes it so powerful. It's not the AI itself, it's all the training they have and all the data that they have for it.
Plus, as a company, the man hours taken to develop it.
Yeah.
Like how much R&D went in, like how many millions of dollars of R&D went in developing Google's AI. But at the on the other side of the spectrum, you have the 9-tile "Are you a robot?" captcha.
Oh my gosh! Right?
A mountain. You're like a picture of a toilet.
You're literally offering free AI testing for them because
it's true. It's true. You're just training it.
Yeah, and then you got like that too many idiots that go through and screw up the AI because it's like clearly a mailbox, and everyone's like, it's a parking meter, and you're like, no, it's a mailbox, and you try to hit enter. And the 9-tile's like, no, you're a robot. No. You're a robot.
I wonder if they've done the research to be like, what's the lowest level IQ person can take this and still pass?
Man,
yeah. What happened to the one-click captcha?
why can't I not want the check box? Isn't good enough for me.
If I could check the box,
man,
me no robot.
It's gonna get there. It's gonna get there, man.
Back to the other thing.
Hey,
this might be a really bad way to look at it, but I'm like, if the day happens when Google takes over my 70,000 plus photos on their cloud service, or they lose all of it, or you know, they do whatever it is, I'm probably going to be a lot less worried about the photos and probably more worried about the end of the world.
Yeah.
I don't like that was never my concern though. I'm not.
You're just like, I want to take.
Worried like them as a company just going bankrupt and you're losing the data.
I don't think
he's worried about losing the data. I think it's just the rights to your data.
It's just the premise. Like if I own something, it is mine. I paid for it as a product, but the way they want their business model to go is as a service,
and you're just renting it.
The principle of it all.
There's certain things like if I wanted to watch a TV show and it's like I want to own that. And I want it to be accessible to me whenever, I'll buy a DVD. And I have 4 or 5 DVDs of movies I really like that I never want to lose because Hulu bought the rights and now I can't watch it on Netflix. There's certain ones. And then there's other things where I'm like, as a service, I like Hulu and a lot of the shows they produce, or I like Disney Plus and I like I'm going to keep paying for it as a service. But to me, it's like the photos are more like the movies that I really like. And it's like, I want to know where those are at all time. I want that to be mine. I don't want those to be on a cloud somewhere. And if it is on a cloud somewhere, I want it to be one that I operate, one that I control. It's just a personal preference. I don't think there's anything wrong with using the
I
cloud.
don't think you have to use the cloud service. It's
I'm
just
not paying for it.
I'm not going to use it.
Well, to be fair, I do use Google Drive for sending clients projects because I created it. It's mine, and like
Until it goes on their cloud.
that's a service. It's like, it's technically the person that paid for the product. It's their decision to use Google Drive.
You're gonna be like
true.
old and like 70 years old, and you're gonna have like grandchildren. Like, Dad, why aren't you using Google Photos? You're like, I don't want.
By then it'll be like something crazy. Why aren't you using
are you doing back
Mind
there?
Photos? It's where like you use, instead of NFC chips and Bluetooth, it's just like the Elon Musk chip where I can send you photos to your head, and I'll be like,
Ooh,
hey,
pass.
hey, can you see, you're the old man now. My grandkid's gonna be like, hey, could you send me that photo? And I'm gonna like text it to him. They're like, that took like 4 seconds to go from a tower to a tower, Grandpa. You could have just sent it to me immediately. And by then they won't even be talking. It'll all be telepathy or something.
I'm just saying, I would be scared to give you unbridled access to send me images from your mind to my mind. That's why I said, heck no. But I could just see you just like, bink, bink. And I'm just, like, where are these coming from?
Dude.
You just look at me, you're like,
Let's just think about like all being in middle school and high school and all your friends sending like stupid, gross, weird, inappropriate pictures to each other. And you're just like, dude, why are you, stop. And then like they'll just keep sending you stuff and your phone keeps vibrating. You weren't able to disable it. And now you can temporarily block people and you can turn vibrate off. And there's technology's evolving and we just got to go with it, man. Just got to ride the wave.
that's what we've been doing. But one day we're going to be old fuddy-duddies just like our parents and be like, hey,
Footy duddies.
be like, you know what? I like this phone. I've had it for the last 8 years and it ain't done me wrong.
I'm already there, man. I don't
Pass.
I actually just got a chip on my Google Pixel 3a, which is a 2-year-old phone. 3?
It's
Two.
2019.
It's got to be 2 because the last one's a 4A. So I think you're 2.
Google's iterations come out really quick, but it's like, other than the
Everybody does.
scratch, I've had no problems with it. And I mean, we talked about the storage size. There's really not a reason for me to get rid of it. It's like,
What do you
it
mean?
works.
What do you mean?
I mean,
man?
you went from like an S20 to a folding laptop.
Okay, no, I went from a Note 10 Plus. Okay,
Yeah.
it's the one before.
I'm pretty
this
sure
one.
even
Samsung
with
I kept it for a year, which is a long time for
chill.
me.
now Samsung, I would chill for Samsung if there was a couple of
Hey.
bloatware was the only reason.
I had a Samsung Nexus. What was it called?
Nexus 5.
No, it was before that.
4?
No, they weren't. They weren't
the one
using.
before 5.
They weren't using numbers at that point. There was at one point where it was just like, it was literally just like the Samsung Nexus something. There was a name,
know.
but I'm just saying, I have been a supporter of all of that from day one. The hardware has come such a long way with Samsung. It's like, if you want something very premium, Samsung. I know I can be like, I've got the latest and greatest, which is my point of doing all of that. So
I don't like their UI. I like stock Android.
stock Android is 30 times better. Don't get me wrong.
30 times.
Why is it better?
Well, I just don't like their design language. Like, whatever they do to it, it feels just big and bubbly, and then
So it's just it's literally just an appearance thing for you,
Correct.
Yeah.
but not speed.
Well,
No, it doesn't perform any lower.
no, that's
So-
not true.
so-
It does. The problem is there's so much bloat on the phone, and they've been dealing with this forever. The problem is like they haven't changed anything. The
big
hardware,
Bixby.
the hardware just got fast enough to keep up with them now. So it's like you don't feel it as much. But I can tell you this: like even after a year of having my Note 10, you just feel the slow eventually. And my wife has a Pixel as well, and like every time I use a Pixel, it's just fast forever.
Yeah.
I had a buddy who had a Pixel 1, like the original Pixel,
Yeah.
and he had it up until recently, and it was still chugging, getting updates, running smoothly. I was so impressed.
Yeah.
And they just don't.
That was why I switched, because I had 3 or 4 Samsungs, and before that I had 2 Droids, and they would eventually slow down. There was a lot of apps I couldn't remove. And in my opinion, Samsung, if you're going to use a launcher, that takes away most of the reasons to use Samsung, because in the last 2 years, everybody's cameras are on par with each other, whether you're getting a OnePlus, Samsung, Android, iPhone, everybody's cameras look good. And that's, primarily what people look at when they get a phone. It's like,
Yes.
what's the camera? What's the resolution? What's the UI? How fast is it? All phones are equally fast at this point.
Yes.
All the UI is arbitrary because Androids can all use launchers unless you're Apple, and now they have tiles or whatever.
Yeah, they got like custom stuff.
They've
they've got
there.
widgets, man.
They got widgets.
They've got widgets and an app drawer.
Yeah.
So-
Apple's in the kiddie pool now. They're like, the water's not cold.
Right?
I hate it. We want to see where this goes.
So if you don't want to use a launcher, the Samsung I do think is a little bit better than Google. What is it? You say Google Android One or whatever.
It's
I
Stock
just
Android.
It's the Pixel launcher,
Yeah.
But
because it is slightly
Use
different.
Nova, I think. Because
Yeah.
it lets you customize
Yeah.
it and make it.
you got me on Nova too.
Which, listen to this. So I could use Nova if I wanted to, of course, because that's why I have
Then
Android.
why use a Samsung? If
But
you
no,
use
here's
it?
the thing. Listen to this. So I don't think you guys are using it on your phones, but within the last couple iterations of Android, now you have the ability to use their gesture navigation system, which is just a straight rip from iPhone. So you have the tiny little thin bar at the bottom, maximizing your screen, and you swipe up to go home, swipe up and hold to see your recents. It's all the same thing, except for the back button, but don't get me started on that. If you do not use the Samsung launcher, you lose all ability to use that. Which makes no sense because it's built into Android, and it was their one way of figuring out, like, if you want this is where you got to stay. And so I normally change the launcher every time. I haven't, because I like the gesture system better.
Google did that first on their Pixels. They're
Yes.
like, for the first month or two, only the Pixel launcher can use this.
right.
And then eventually they let support, because they were like, I think they're just trying to force people to use it.
Yeah,
Like,
they
you
were.
gotta try it. You have to use it. Use our stuff, please.
Well,
Please.
the thing that bothered me was the Google bar on your phone. I had to install Nova launcher a launcher. We're really late in this conversation to say it, but a launcher is just like the way your icons look and the way your interface on your phone
your home screen.
interacts. It's your home screen, your app tray, and all that. Yeah, jumped off ship there. I didn't like the Google bar on it, and you couldn't remove it. Google required it, and all it was like a little search bar that took up 4 rows of icon slots. And I'm like, I don't need this, because if I want to talk to Google to do a search, I'll hold the home button or
squeeze the phone,
or say,
"Hey Google."
don't
do that.
you could do so many things that are more efficient than a line that takes up 4 bars, 3 of which are a button that you press and then you can type in. So then there's even more buttons you have to push. The other one is the Google Talk. So there's just so many things about it. It's like, Google's nice because they don't have bloatware, but the 2 things they have on there are things that I don't want on my phone. And luckily they do let you like disable some stuff. But at the end of the day, I like that customization, man.
I get it. I gave up. I just want something that's fast and that works and that makes me happy, I guess, every time I get to open it up and go, look at me.
I'd probably go iPhone if it weren't for custom launchers. I love Android, but I think it's just the customization of it.
Yeah.
Apple just works, man.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I know.
I don't want the notch. If they get a phone out there that doesn't have a notch,
It'll make me think
iPhone,
twice too.
You got me. I'm gonna get it again.
I'll buy stock and then I'll buy a phone.
I'll sell all my GameStop stocks. I'm all going Apple.
We're talking about Linus. You see, he bought $50,000 worth
I
of
can't
stock.
believe he did that. It's so stupid.
I don't think he'll come out ahead.
Well,
Yeah, but
it's a waste
just-
of money. He's blowing money.
It's just a publicity stunt.
It is.
He'll make that back in ad
He
revenue.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
know.
He's got 10 million subscribers.
well,
I
I mean,
know.
either way, he received $10,000 to do that. He said he would. They have a podcast, a live stream, and
All we do on our podcast is promote other channels and other podcasts. Just so you know.
Why not? I mean, we spent like a half hour talking about projects we're working on. So
True, at
they have a
least.
live stream, and he said that whatever people donated to their normal live stream, normally they get like $200. He said he would 5x it. So he's expecting to maybe it would double or whatever, and then he would 5x it over what they normally would do. And he said, all the money I receive, we will 5x. I will use my own personal income and buy GameStop stock because I support buying out stocks of small companies to help them out in exchange for like ruining the lives of rich people that just move money around in a very like brief wording. Not that he doesn't like rich people. He just doesn't like people that got their money by screwing over other people. And he ends up receiving $10,000, and it kept going up. And everyone in the chat's like, dude, put a cap on it. And he's like, I'm a man of my word. And they're like, please just put a cap. So he does it at 50K. In the middle of the live stream, they have him call his wife and they tell her what happened. And that phone call didn't go well. So yeah,
Doesn't surprise me.
yeah, we won't be buying GameStop stock. I think Linus probably, I mean, you buy that much. As you're buying it, the price is going up
Yep.
because you're raising the value of it on your own. 50K stock, if anything, is just a ton.
It was actually just a whole stunt for him to buy a GameStop. It's actually going to become LTT Stop.
No, yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
Dude, that would be cool. If I don't think 50K is enough.
I don't think so either.
No.
But
He's
I
on
mean,
the
that's
board.
$50K dollars.
He's on the board now.
He's throwing it.
That's all it takes is 50 grand. You're on the board.
At GameStop, I
Yeah.
would have bought in. I would have bought in if it was only 50K. That's a nice
To get on
gig.
the board.
Yeah,
Get
just
on the board
so
at GameStop.
you go on the board, you file bankruptcy, you take your shares, you walk away, and you come out
Yeah,
ahead.
move on.
I clearly know a lot about stock.
Yeah.
My
We're
financial planner advised against getting stock in GameStop, so
Well-
I asked.
Yeah, we're not allowed to. We probably shouldn't go down that rabbit hole.
No, we can.
As much as I want to.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, we don't want to get anybody in trouble there.
I thought we were gonna plug. Are we gonna plug?
No, not now.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Not now.
in that conversation.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with that one now. I'll get in trouble. So yeah,
So we've riffed a ton.
that's the end of it, man. We are a couple minutes over what I like to be at.
Yeah. No, we. It's been productive conversation today.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you guys have learned something. Maybe.
I don't know. Or you just enjoy hanging out. I usually listen to podcasts when I'm doing dishes or rotoscoping a video.
Yeah, man. Hey, I get my best listening done while I'm rotoscoping.
It's just kind of something to chill to while I'm working on
Nothing
some
gets
board
me in
work.
the mood than just a little rotoscoping.
Man,
Yeah.
nothing better.
Welcome to the TRIFLIX Cast. Next episode, part 2 of this episode 2. No, yeah. Next time we'll talk about rotoscoping and how much
Sure.
it's a waste of time,
Let's do it, man.
and how robots are going to replace every rotoscoping job in the next 10 years.
Yeah. So I know last episode we said that we weren't exactly sure our frequency and when we were going to be releasing. And
Every 2 weeks.
Every
It's
2 weeks.
Decided.
It's decided.
We
so
have way too much work. You guys are too good to us. You're
Yeah.
helping us find too many clients. Thanks. If you want, stop sending us clients if you want more episodes.
Whoa.
Are we leaving that in? I think we're going to.
We're going to retract
Roll
that
out
statement.
on that one.
Yeah.
That's the outro. That's the bit.
That's
See you next one.
See you next time.